Hello viewers, today we are going to do lesson 1, my first steps from your senior secondary English course. This is a very interesting extract from the autobiographical book Sunny Days, written by famous cricketer Sunil Gavaskar. I am sure you all know who Sunil Gavaskar is. Before we get on to the main story, let us talk about some general things. For instance, have you ever seen newborn babies immediately after they are born? And if you have ever been to a nursery where newborn babies are kept immediately after their birth in their respective cribs, you may find it difficult to say who is who and who belongs to which mother. These days, hospitals put a bar-coded tag on both the baby and its mother just to ensure that the baby can be identified easily. But imagine, in the absence of such a system, how problematic it could have been for the hospital staff to identify the babies which were taken by nurses for bathing. In this story, Sunil Gavaskar tells us how he got exchanged with another baby born to a fisherwoman. I hope you have all read the story thoroughly by now and you are familiar with some of the contents. Let's try to understand the story in our own way. First, let us look at the title, My First Steps. Suppose you had not read the story. What would you have guessed about the story? Some of the wild guesses could be that it is a story about the time when someone started walking, or it could be something to do about someone's launch into his career, or that it could be something about one's life history from his birth. Well, if you guess the last one, then you are very close to what we are going to encounter in this story. The story, My First Steps, narrates a very interesting incident that befell the author. Sunil owes his gratitude to his uncle, Mr. Narayan Masurkar, for what he is today. When Sunil was born, this uncle, also lovingly called Nan Kaka, came to see the baby in the hospital immediately after his birth. Nan Kaka was very observant. Sunil uses the term eagle-eyed for him. When Nan Kaka took the baby in his arms, he immediately noticed that the baby had a hole near the top of his left earlobe. He came again the next day to look up the mother and child. Guess what happened this time? This time, when he took the baby in his arms, he immediately realized that the baby he was holding did not have any hole in the left ear. Now he was bound to raise an alarm. How could this happen? The hospital staff was in its toes, frantically looking for the baby with the hole near its left earlobe. After a long, frantic search, the baby was located. It was sleeping, unmindful of what had happened, beside a fisherwoman. Some babies were born on the same day and probably around the same time. The babies apparently got exchanged when the nurses had taken them for bath. All the confusion was sorted out and the babies were returned to their respective mothers. Today, when Sunil looks back, he has a hearty laugh and wonders what would have been his fate if Nan Kaka had not noticed the hole. He would obviously have been brought up as a fisherman's son and remain an unknown commoner. Would he have become a famous cricketer even then? Well, the answer is difficult. It could be both yes or no. If he was destined to become a cricketer, he would have still become one by fighting a lot of odds. But it is more likely that he would have taken up a fisherman's profession. The family could not have afforded such a costly hobby. Sunil also wonders if the fisherman's son had ever read his story and what he would be doing now. He hopes that if he reads his book, he might start taking some interest in Sunil Gavaskar. Sunil feels Providence sent Nand Kaka like a watchful guard so that his true identity could be retained. He owes a lot to his family and especially to Nand Kaka. Let's see what section 2 contains. In this section, Sunil tells us about his family and his growing years. He recalls his early childhood days. He says he can clearly recall the days when, as a child, his mother used to play cricket with him in the house gallery of their house. Because Sunil was so small, she had to kneel down to bowl to him. They would often play their matches with a tennis ball. Sunil used to bat. One day while batting, he hit the ball so hard that it hit his mother on her nose, with the result her nose started bleeding. How do you think a small child would have felt after seeing his mother bleed, and all because of him? He was obviously frightened, but the mother did not show any signs of panic. Like a true sportswoman, she washed off the blood and shrugged off the matter as if nothing had happened. As soon as the blood stopped, she resumed the game. Somewhere, Sunil got his first lessons in sportsmanship from this incident. But Sunil became more conscious while hitting. Now, he would play forward defense and avoided attacking the ball. Sunil uses a very obvious cliche here. He says, "Cricket was in my blood." What did he mean by saying this? It becomes clear when he tells us that his father too was a good club cricketer in his days. He says his father was a good student of the game too. What do you mean by saying he was a good student? It means that the father was a great learner, and each time he not just played the game but also learned something more about the game and its techniques. With the result, though he did not earn any big name internationally, he could hold interesting discussions with Sunil even after his son became a famous cricketer. Sunil says he always found his father's advice very useful in developing his career. His mother, we have already seen, was a cricketing lady who perhaps initiated Sunil into the world of cricket. She was the one who made him take his first steps in cricket. Now, do you realize where the title comes from? There was yet another famous cricketing figure in the family. That was Madhav Mantri, his uncle. Madhav Mantri had played for India in 4 official test matches. Though he was not very successful, but for Sunil, he was a force to reckon with, meaning thereby he was a very important person from whom Sunil could draw his inspiration. Sunil would often visit his uncle's house as a child. Each time he went there, he would take out his cricket pullovers, which are normally given to each player during the matches. Sunil would hug them lovingly. In fact, he was so attracted towards these test pullovers that one day he asked his uncle if he could take one from his collection. What do you think the uncle did? Did he oblige him? No, he did not. Instead, he told Sunil something which Sunil valued all his life. He said that the colors just don't come so easily. One has to sweat out to get these colors. By sweating out, he meant one has to work very hard to get this color. He told him that if he needed a color, he too should work hard to earn this kind of a distinction. Sunil understood the underlying message and never forgot that all through his life. In fact, Sunil says he was happy that his uncle did not give in to his requests. Why do you think Sunil says so? He probably meant that if he had got things so easily in life, he would have never learnt the value of struggle or hard work. This incident taught him that there was indeed no shortcut to success. Sunil was also fascinated by the many trophies and souvenirs which his uncle had won and were on display in his house. Of all the trophies, Sunil was especially attracted by one stump which had been used in the game played between India and England in the year 1952. The stump was special because it carried autographs of all players. Sunil loved to feel the signatures under his hand. Sunil now goes on to reveal something more about himself. He says, right from his childhood he had wanted to become a batsman and that he hated losing. Now I am sure you will agree that for a player to have this kind of spirit is not good. Sunil tells us about his games with his friends. The desire to always win became an obsession with him. So if he lost any time, he would fight and walk away, taking his bat and ball with him. Those days, not many people could afford a bat and a ball. Sunil was a privileged one to possess a bat and a ball. Somewhere he was mean in his thinking. He thought that by depriving his friends, he would get them to allow him to keep winning. The game would thus come to an abrupt close, since the boys did not have any bat or ball they could play with. They could only curse him and abuse him. But like all kids, such temper tantrums did not last long. Very soon, they would make up and start playing again. Sunil remembers his friends, the Ambe brothers, the Mandrekar brothers and several others very fondly. He tells us how his friends planned a strategy to get him out, but without allowing him to fight or walk out. What did they do? They decided beforehand on which ball they would all appeal collectively, declaring him out. This was whether he was genuinely out or not. They knew that Sunil would have to accept the decision of the majority. They often played matches with boys living in the neighboring colonies. They would even contribute money to buy trophies, which in those days cost a mere 1 rupee 50 paisa. Now let's see some other facts which the lesson throws up. You agree that each incident taught Sunil something valuable which helped him to become a star cricketer? From his mother, for instance, he learnt that injuries are part of the game and that one had to go on despite the injury. Also, his famous defense stroke probably came from his being cautious not to hurt his mother again. From his father, he got endless good advice through his career. From his uncle, he learnt two valuable lessons. One, that there is no shortcut to success. Second, that one had to work hard to achieve distinction in whatever one wanted to do. Mere admiration was not enough to inspire a person. From his friends, he learnt many things. Team player, one must accept both defeat and victory in one's strides, to accept collective decision with dignity, the value of working as a team, not to be so selfish and obsessed with one's own personal gains. How could one deprive others of their right to excel or be better than your own self? One cannot learn unless one loses to a better player, and that one has to constantly be faced with challenges of different sorts. Gavaskar is the recipient of the Indian Civilian Honours of Padma Shri and Padma Bhushan. In 2012, he was also awarded the Colonel C.K. Naidu Lifetime Achievement Award for Cricket in India. I hope, viewers, you have enjoyed. I am sure you know much more about Sunil Gavaskar than what we have discussed. However, the point is we need to prepare well for our exams. So do read the lesson thoroughly again and prepare well for your exams.